Oh boy. I was working at a large Canadian university that I've alluded to a few times during these questions. And I had reached uh, the rank of shift supervisor, where I was in charge of overnight, I was in charge of 12 guards on a rotating basis. And during my night shifts, we were designated as a prostitution problem area by Toronto Police because, very frankly, what we would have is we had a very low income area just a couple of streets away from the university, as is very often the case, I find, in a lot of urban areas. And you really do have to be very, very alert and proactive, and you do have to sort of observe the transaction happening, and then you go up and knock on the window and then politely ask everyone to leave. And one day I was observing three or four young, we'll say, ladies, in undeterminate gender. We're trying to be polite here. And they were hopping in and out of vehicles on one of the streets that was actually running to the inside. And for those of you who know the university I'm talking about, it is Gould Street. And they were plying their trade rather enthusiastically, I might add. And this is not to make judgment. Those are somebody's children. Once upon a time, they were held in their parents' arms, and their parents were hoping for different things for them. So you do have to try to remember that when you were treating them. And some are, for example, males dressed up as females. And you cannot, and what you think off duty is none of my business. I absolutely support your right to think anything you want, to say anything you want off duty. But when you report and you're in a uniform, you do not have those opinions. Flat. Okay, so understand that you will treat everyone with absolute dignity. In this case, the loss of dignity came when I saw somebody hop into the back of a rather luxurious automobile. And as I walked up, I thought, I know that car. And it didn't hit me until I had already rapped on the back window with my flashlight. And I observed the dean of the university in a compromising position on university property with, we will just call her a young lady at that point. And I just sort of went, whoops, glad I don't have a body cam. If I'd had a camera at that point, I would have had absolutely no judgment at all. It would have been recorded on video, and I would have had to make a full report. And at this point, I had to make a decision. Do I enforce all the laws? Do I call this in? Because what's going to happen at this point is this is going to blow up. The dean is going to wind up hauled in front of the provost, who is going to have to decide and probably terminate his position. He's probably going to have to fire him. Boy, is this going to hit the news, and it's going to make a great big splat thud when it does. And right at that moment, I was smart enough to know that there is absolutely no positives that are going to come from anything I do here right now. For those of you who are thinking right now, oh, you should let him go. He's in charge of you. He can, make your life easier. No, he's not going to. And you shouldn't be thinking that at this point. Now, let's not get all Batman and think that we're saving the world by running this in, right? But, they hurriedly got dressed, interrupted their act. The young lady fled the car. I said, just a moment. You stay right here. And I bent down and I said, I'm really sorry, sir. I'm so sorry that this happened, but I am going to have to make a verbal report to the provost when she gets in. And he, of course, was adamant. He said, you don't know what just happened here. I'm going to make sure that you're fired. I'm going to call, and she named off the head of security, et cetera, my immediate boss. And I said, yes, sir. That's unfortunate. You do what you have to do. I am going to have to make a report of this. And my report will first be verbal to the provost, and then I will follow her directions. So I turned to the young lady and I said, let's do the usual. Let's get your ID. Right. And I followed it more or less straight by the book. I immediately went back to the security center. I did, in fact, wake up my security supervisor. I called her and said, Bronwyn, we have a problem. We have a very big problem, the biggest possible problem we could have right now. Thankfully, I had a very good supervisor, and she immediately woke up the provost, who immediately came down to the university. And the lights were on the top floor. Everybody was in crisis management moment. But the upshot of it was my supervisor finally called me in and said, don't worry, you're on overtime. You're going to have to stick around. We're going to have a conference call with everybody involved, and you're going to have to tell them what you saw. So be clear, don't be ambiguous, tell them what you saw. Go write your report. And I pulled it out and said, already done. And I really didn't want to do it. Because frankly, to me, and this is speaking personally, there's no such thing as a victimless crime. You know, that prostitute may well have been trafficked, and we're starting to take a real interest in human trafficking as humans right now, and potentially a couple of 100 years too late, but better late than never. And is she a victim? Yeah. Very often these girls, get off the bus in some place like Toronto thinking, they're going to make themselves a great life, start their adult life, and they meet somebody who's really charming for the first couple of weeks, and then he starts introducing them to recreational drugs, and then one day he turns around and says, yeah, how are you going to pay for all those drugs I gave you? And then it starts. Very few of those young people got onto the streets by choice. Now, some of them made some errors and they made a choice to remain. Absolutely. There are places that they can go to reach out for help. Absolutely. So I see all sides of the equation. But in that case, I had to react by the book. I had to react professionally, and I had to remain calm. I will be honest, I thought I was fired. I thought I was going to get called on the carpet, and he was going to say, how dare you accuse me of something, and try to make a mistaken identity case. And you know what? He just left quietly. He just went, and I assumed that he was read the riot act. I don't know, because I came in at the beginning. I gave them my facts. I submitted my report. I laid it right on the desk. It was accepted by the university committee, and I left and went the heck home because I didn't want anything to do with any of this situation. I could not have found a worse person to pick at that point. And it was going to take significant intestinal fortitude, not to pat myself on the back, but courage to do the right thing here. And the right thing is going to ruin his life. He was married with small children. This is going to blow their lives to smithereens. And it was very, very easy for me to start sitting in judgment. I don't know anything about his life. I don't know anything. So that's not my place to do it. Have I formed opinions? Of course. But I kept them to myself. So if I can get through that, you can get through just about anything with your judgment calls. And if in doubt, write it out. Is a really good action for solving anytime you're stressed out. Right? If you write something out and you follow procedure and you wind up getting any flack for it, it is my considered judgment that you probably need a new place to work. You should be entitled to supervisors who will back you when you do the right thing. That doesn't mean patting your back and saying, oh, you're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. Listen, we all have to be adults here. We all have to shoulder what happens when we do stuff at work. But if you do the right thing, the law says that you can't be retaliated against, right? So, difficult judgment call? Absolutely, no question. There are other times when I have let people go when it would serve absolutely no purpose to further penalize them. The young man who was stealing the police car, for example, a toy police car, if you haven't heard the story. He was shoplifting from a local mall. Is it going to serve any further purpose to call the police? No. That's not a difficult judgment call, though. And if you operate by the action that says just do the next right thing, really, there's no such thing as a difficult judgment call. There are sudden judgment calls, and that's difficult when you have to make a snap decision on the spot about something. But I respectfully submit to you that if you find judgment calls difficult, then maybe you just need to stop thinking and just do the next right thing.